Hey, everybody. Welcome to MD Levrone Report, starring IFBB Hall of Famer, the Maryland Muscle Machine, Kevin Levrone. How are you, Kevin?
I'm doing great, Ron. Thank you, brother. How are you?
Doing great. So this is a continuation of your Olympia memories, because as we said in the first edition, you stood on that stage 13 times. You were in the top 5, 11 out of those times, and you were runner-up 4 times, which, as I said, I think the only other person that's ever done that is Jay Cutler. So you're in some great company. So part 2, we're going to begin with 1998 in New York City. This was the rise of Ronnie Coleman, a guy who I don't think too many of you at the top, you were really worried about a whole lot up until that point. I certainly don't think, and you're actually responsible for creating this guy, as we've told that story so many times, but it's true. I don't think Ronnie would have been winning Olympias ever if it hadn't been for that one fateful night, and it was Russia, right? In a hotel room?
Yeah, it was in Russia.
You taught him
I
how
got
to
a
peek.
knock on my door, and I peeked through the peephole, and it was Ronnie Coleman. And I let him in, and he said, hey, I got a question. You know, what are you doing to stay in shape? I brought him in. We sat down, and we had some shots of vodka and coffee to about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And he woke up. We didn't have much time to sleep. We had to be back on stage at 11 o'clock. Whatever, went to his room. I think that might have just calmed his nerves or something, but he woke up dehydrated, and he beat me for the first time. Ronnie Coleman had beat me and came on the scene. We're overseas, and I think I'd won like 5 or 6 shows straight in a row. And he came on, he dried out after that night, and the rest has been history. He came back to America. We competed in the Night of Champions. He beat me there for the second time. And then it was like, damn, the Olympia was wide open. Dorian Yates had retired. Me, Flex, and Sean, we thought we were going to be the next guys popping in that spot.
Yeah.
And God behold, ain't nothing but a peanut came out of nowhere. And history was made, and we never beat him since.
I mean, it's Flex's fault too. Flex, I believe Flex is the one that turned him on to using gear. I think he was natural. Yeah. So it's you and Flex. It's you contributed greatly to the greatness that became Ronnie Coleman. So his first win in New York City, Flex Wheeler in second to Ronnie. Flex was very disappointed, of course. He was a heavy favorite to be the next in line for the title. Nasser still very strong, 3rd place. You were right behind him in 4th. Of course, Mr. Consistency, Sean Ray in 5th. So New York City, man, I mean, you knew Ronnie was getting better and better. Did you think he was going to win the Olympia?
I didn't think he was going to win Olympia because I knew he still had some weaknesses. Weaknesses was in his presentation. Ronnie wasn't the best poser when it came to showing his physique in the prejudging round. So I thought, you know what, he's big, but we're going to take him out on presentation because me, Flex, and Sean, we can pose better than Ronnie.
Yeah.
And then our routines were almost perfect and immaculate. So we knew that those were judging rounds as well. So we thought we thought at least one of us had a shot, but then we came back to the night show and we knew that Flex Wheeler was ahead of us and was running close to, if there was any one of us that had that chance of taking that whole title, it would have been Flex, but Ronnie just came out of nowhere that whole weekend and start getting better and better and just walked us.
Yeah. Do you think it was close? I mean, you were obviously on stage, you couldn't really see. But...
I think it was close. Like I said, overall, I think Flex Wheeler had the best presentation out of the two, best posing routine, more confidence in everything, but I think just eyeballing, looking at solid muscle, it was Ronnie.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, they feel his best look was the first couple of Olympias. They feel he got bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. I think he won his first Olympia around, I want to say like 235, 240.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Ronnie, and then Ronnie just kept getting bigger and bigger and better. The same thing with he'd done, took it to another whole level. I think Ronnie was probably one of the first Mr. Olympias that competed in the 280s or 275.
Oh, he had to be the first. I don't think Dorian ever broke 270.
No. Ronnie was the first one that walked into that. And you got to think Here, Lee Haney was in his 242s, 243.
Yeah.
And then within 10 years, I mean, you got a Mr. Olympia now that's walking on stage 275.
His heaviest was 296 at one time.
Yeah. So it was like, I mean, he was growing right before our eyes.
Yeah.
Growing,
Crazy.
literally growing. You're talking about a guy that didn't place in the top 10 2 years before that.
Right.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, he was
and
11.
Just came out of the darkness within a year and a half and just
He'd
came on the
been-
scene.
He had been ninth place the year before. He went from ninth place to first place in 1 year. Wow.
And the year before that, he didn't even place anywhere. He just came on. But I got to tell you, thinking back, I remember being over in Germany when we were doing the German Grand Prix, and Bert Beiderbecke had mentioned, you know, he was a promoter over there in Dusseldorf, Germany. And he said, man, and he was a photographer as well. He said, you guys better watch out for Ronnie Coleman. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I was like, who, Ronnie? Ronnie don't even place the top 10. What are you talking about? And God behold, he was right. Ronnie came out of nowhere. But listen, Ronnie won his pro card natural.
Yeah.
Ronnie was competing against us natural.
Yeah. Nobody believes
Ronnie did all that.
Nobody believes
Trust
that.
me.
None of these people watch the comments under here. They're like, your feet.
Yes, he did. He did it natural.
No.
I've seen Ronnie grow right before my eyes. Yeah. Ronnie's Mr. Olympia. He didn't place anywhere. And so that's what happened with Ronnie Coleman. Of course, Ronnie Coleman has the most freakiest, genes for this sport of bodybuilding. He's tall. He has long legs. He had just complete full muscle bellies and just enormous, and the perfect personality and a perfect person that you don't mind placing, second two or third two or whatever, because Ronnie is just, he's one serious champion.
I've never heard anyone say, I can't stand that Ronnie Coleman. I don't like him as a person. I've never heard that once. I've never heard anyone say that about you, honestly.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. And to this day, you see Ronnie Coleman. I see Ronnie Coleman. I don't really even see his physique when I see him today, and I see the heroic, lion, courageous spirit that's down in that body that made him that great champion. He's still a fighter. He's still a warrior. He's still the people's. He's just that guy. Yeah. And it's just something that he's born with that just took him from the inside out, and that's what makes Ronnie Coleman great, because you see the warrior in him now, just like it was back then.
Yeah. So 1999.
Matter of fact, he even shows it more now.
Oh, my goodness.
How much of a guy that he doesn't quit, and that, he's going to keep going on, so.
Yeah, just the fact that he doesn't complain about his situation. That he's
unbelievable. And he says, I see people always say, well, Ronnie, would you do it? He said, yeah. He says, the only regrets I have that I didn't do one more rep with the 800, the 803 or 8, how much, what it was.
That was 800.
If I knew this going to happen, I went down, got one more.
Yeah, that was easy. It felt light. No, it didn't, Ronnie. Come on.
That's right.
So 1999, he did it again in New York City, and again, Flex Wheeler, second place. Mm-hmm. Now we have Chris Cormier in the mix. He was top 3, third place. You were right behind him in 4th. And again, Sean Ray, always in the top 5. This was also the first year Jay Cutler. He was second to last. He was 15th out of 16 competitors that year. But what do you remember from that? Ronnie's second win, second show.
I remember after that, I remember for those couple of years right there, I kind of gave up on the gas a little bit, because I kind of didn't have a lot of faith in the judging. After getting second so many times, you're like, you know what? What's the point of going all out? Why would I go all out 100% when I could train at 75%, still place where they're going to put me, because they're not going to let me win the show. I had pushed 100 times before, 100% maximizing my training, and got second twice. So I said, I'm going to pull back a little bit and just pace myself. And that's what it was about coming into that contest. Yeah. And people probably say, well, your legs got smaller or something, you know what I mean? But that had a lot to do with it,
Yeah. So I remember this year very well, 2000, because this was the first year it moved to Las Vegas, where it stayed for 20 years. But Mandalay Bay, I remember you had hair for this one. You had like the Caesar haircut. I distinctly remember the pose down. So here is another. This was
no, it was 2000, right?
Yeah, 2000.
Yeah, 2000. I let my hair grow out. 2000.
This was another second place. Flex Wheeler in third, fourth Sean Ray, fifth Nasser. But I remember distinctly I think it was in the pose down, or was it in the final comparisons?
I patted his midsection. Yeah, I had knew the previous year before that, I knew that Ronnie was spilling over a little bit. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to go back, and for the 2000 Mr. Olympia, I'm going to give it 100%. And that's when I went back and I gave it 100%. I put on a little more size. My legs was full. My body was full. Everything was full. And I just pushed it. I said, this is going to be a year. I'm going to push all out 100%. And if it's close, then the judges, they could give it to me. But if Ronnie shows up, Ronnie showed up. Ronnie was not as ripped. Ronnie was not as shredded. He was spilling over.
Yep.
And I felt like that year, I felt like I had him in presentation. I felt like I had him in the posing routine if they were judging that, which they should have been judging it. And I felt like I had him in the pose down and everything. Yeah. But I think the sheer size, no matter what, if he was a tad off, they still gave him the nod because he had, again, probably about another 20, 25, 30 pounds of muscle on us, but it was a good battle. I felt like that was probably my show to win.
Yeah, that was the era where they kept saying, you got to knock out the champ, which means...
Yeah, it was that excuse. It can't be close. What's she going to give it to him? So in other words, they're just saying, if it's not a landslide, and we started hearing that a lot, if it's not a landslide, they're going to give it to the champ. Well, why? Judging is judging. Judges show fairly, and I'm glad that that has changed, and the rightfully guys are actually winning right now. But that was a memorable night for me. And I remember the audio and everything that I had, the intro, to every MC that ever introduced me, to every expediter that told me where to stand, down to every light man with a plan, and to every judge that has judged me, and to every writer and photographer that poured his heart and soul out for the world to see, and to all my fans and loved ones that cried for me. This one's for you, baby.
Wow.
And I went all out on that. But I knew that, that was it. So I put everything I had into that. And I was a little disappointed in the outcome, but I knew that I gave it everything. And when you step on stage and you do it all, and you give everything possibly that you're not ever hanging your head down, you know what I mean? Because you're the champion, you did it all, and that's where the chips just fell.
Yeah. So 2001, Ronnie came back, not his best again. That's the year he almost died the morning of the show. Almost went to the hospital. Chad told him to drink a gallon of water. He shows up waterlogged. Jay Cutler beats him in the judging. Was ahead in points, but if somehow, because that's how things were done back then, he still ends up gaining the points and keeping the title that night. So it was Ronnie, Jay, you were in third place, Sean Ray in fourth, Chris Cormier in fifth. But that was the year I think everyone said this Jay Cutler kid's pretty damn good.
Yeah, Jay came on. The only thing that Jay was lacking, and I remember talking to Jay, was confidence. Because Jay said, man, I said, Jay, you need to go out there and take this thing. It's so close to where you can get him. You can get him. So I started cheering on for Jay, because I was like, come on, we can't let this guy just keep winning and winning and winning.
Yeah.
That's not right. So there was a picture floating around somewhere backstage of me leaning over Jay as Jay's laying down like this. I was leaning over him. Someone caught that photo backstage in the pump-up room. But I was just telling Jay, hey, listen, this is your night, man. You gotta go out there. Jay kept saying, yeah, but you guys are my fans. I mean, I was fans of you guys. I grew up, I watched all of you guys, man. Are you sure I can do it? I said, yeah, I'm sure you can do it. You got to do it. You want to be Mr. Olympia? This is the chance. Go out there, do what you got to do. Forget if you used to be a fan of his or not. Go out there and beat him. So yeah, that was an incredible night, man. That was a great show.
Yeah, think about all the guys you helped that became Mr. Olympia. Good.
Yeah.
It's a whole other show. Okay, so a year later, this was your final time being runner-up at the Mr. Olympia, fourth time. So again, it was another Ronnie year, 2002. Ronnie, Kevin Levrone, Chris Cormier, Dexter Jackson, first time he broke in the top 5. In fifth place, Gunther Schlierkamp, who ended up beating Ronnie a couple weeks later at the GNC Show of Strength in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know, one of the only times a reigning Mr. Olympia has been beaten, you know, in those Grand Prix tours, even when like Mr. Olympia is way off, they used to just give it to him anyway. But, you know, here you are again. This is fourth time you've been runner up. I mean, it had to be just so frustrating to come.
Yeah, I mean, at this time, you know, the wind starts coming out of your sails, and I think the wind finally came out of my sails. And I said, you know what? No matter what I do, this is almost 14 years hammering away at this. I won every show in the world. I won it on a classic twice. I was the first guy ever did that in history, winning it twice. Yeah. And I won everything in the world, you know, except this show. And I was like, well, what is it going to take for me to win this show? There's been guys that have been, you know, out of shape, showing up and winning, and they still give it to them. So I knew at that point it was time for me to move on.
Yeah, well, you didn't. You came back one more time, 2003, but this was the first time you got knocked out of the top 5. So it was Ronnie, Jake. This was another Jay Cutler runner-up year. Dexter in third. Dennis James in fourth. Good friend of yours. Gunther in fifth again. Wow. And yeah, sixth place. So clearly you were someone who, if you gave it your all, you were always going to be in the top 5. So
I didn't give it my all. I took my foot off the gas, disappointment from, you know, the previous years. And I was said, you know what, it's just, I got, at this time, Sean Ray was retired. And I said, I just need to start exiting off stage. You just got to know when it's time to go. And I think at that point, I just kind of knew leading up to that show, you know, that it was time.
Yeah, well, you did. You stepped away. You moved on to other things, other projects. You lived your life, and then 13 years later, you come back. You got a special invitation to compete at the 2016 Mr. Olympia. All the guys you used to compete with were gone, pretty much, most of them anyway. Dexter was still there, but it was a totally different lineup. So the top 5 that year was Phil Heath. That was toward the end of his 7-year reign. Sean Roden was second. He would win it a couple years later. Dexter in third. He had already won it once at that point. Big Ramy in fourth. William Bonac in fifth. And out of the top 15, yourself and another guy named Brandon Curry, who ended up winning it a couple years later. Yeah, Brandon was
amazing. So, it's amazing. I mean, out of all those Olympias that out of all those Olympias, the most memorable one is actually from one to the last one. But you know, there's a great memories that you have with the sport of bodybuilding. You know, I was on stage with so many of my heroes that I looked up to, and then you see your life transition. You become a hero to the younger guys, and you know, the opportunities. I came into the sport just as a construction worker, you know, and I ended up ending my career in this sport. You know, the last time I was on stage, you know, very successful supplement owner, business owner, a guy that has traveled around the world and had millions and millions of fans through this great sport of bodybuilding, you know, and it's just been a life journey that you cannot get this education going to college. And I'm just so grateful and thankful for the fans, thankful for Steve, thankful for friends like you, NPC, Jim Mannion, his vision. Everybody's vision ties in and has a piece of has had that ladder to a spot for me to step, a ladder part of me to step on to get to where I'm at. And I just thankful for the opportunities that the sport has given me. And looking back at my career, you can't plan it. All I know is, as long as you never believe, as long as you never quit, never give up, you'll never lose. And Jim Mannion was a huge part of my career by telling me that I believe in you, kid, come to the nationals. And then he said, go out to Cali, you know. Jimmy was there and got me the contract with Joe Weider, and Lee Haney was supportive and looked up to him. And Dorian Yates pushed me to be bigger and to be better and to be stronger and to be hardcore. And I went with Dorian and I learned some things from him over in England training, you know, and it's just the brotherhood. And then Sean Ray, you know, the business side of it, Sean said, listen, you got to go on tour. You know, money is out there, not only at the Mr. Olympia, but you got to go on tour, give seminars, make videotapes and things like this. And then the whole Weider umbrella, Lincoln Conquerite, and making sure that, you know, we would show up on time for our photo shoots, and just all the marketing and the team that went behind developing us as athletes, and spending time with Joe, the meetings and everything with him teaching us how to pose and how to create the illusion. He always said, bodybuilding is an illusion. You have to know how to create that. In order to create that, you need to be in shape. So, you know, all these things has a lot to go with into Kevin Levrone, the bodybuilder in the world. The world knows my name because collectively it's just been a lot of great implements from a lot of great people. And even Arnold, you know, I wanted to get to be like Arnold. I wanted to, you know, get in his head. So I had to go and win an Arnold Classic, and he brought me out to the movie set the end of days. I mean, it's like, man, you know, it's a dream come true, and it's been a great experience. And I couldn't imagine that my life would have headed down this road, but now sitting back, looking back, I'm just so grateful and thankful for what opportunity this sport has given me.
Well put. You know, I realized looking at this that it sort of came full circle. Your first Mr. Olympia, you got to compete. You and the other guys got to compete against this legendary figure, Lou Ferrigno, that had been gone for many, many years. You never thought you'd ever get the chance to stand on a stage with him.
Never.
And you did.
And I got to say, even Rich Gaspari, you know, Richie, it needed Robbie Robinson. You know, I competed in 1992.
That's right.
At the Night of Champions, Ronnie Robinson. I was cramping up, and he gave me some applesauce.
Yeah. Well, the point I was making with that was 2016. You came back, and these guys, every one of those guys on that stage that year, Phil, Roden, Dexter, Bonac, they had all grown up seeing you in the magazines, and they never thought they would get a chance to compete against you. And you basically gave them that gift by coming back that year. That they did. They can say, I stood on stage with Kevin Levrone.
Yeah, I mean, I got a standing ovation that year. Most memorable moment of my life. I think I pulled a lot of people, a lot of couch potatoes, and a lot of people. At that point, it wasn't about what you look like. It's just about believing in yourself and following through and doing something good. You know, a lot of guys out there just getting on stage, that's mental therapy for them. For me, coming back, it was mental therapy because, like Rocky said, Stallone said, you know, there's some skeletons in the basement. You got to go back and revisit them and get that out. And that's what I had to do. And ever since that show, I can sleep good at night now. You know, I can sleep good knowing that, you know what, I gave my career 100% the way that I wanted to do it. And every decision I made was from my heart. And if there's anything that I could ever change, it's not one single thing about competing in the IFBB.
Wow. Perfect. Well, that's it, man. Thank you so much for sharing your memories of 13 appearances on the Mr. Olympia stage. You know, most bodybuilders dream of getting there once. You did it over a dozen times. Man, you're one of the greats. I always say, people ask me, who's the greatest bodybuilder that never won the Olympia? And I say, it's a tie. I always say Flex Wheeler and Kevin Levrone. Both of those guys, in my heart of hearts, should have had at least one, if not multiple, Mr. Olympia titles. But regardless, you gave so much inspiration to so many people around the world. And that's why your brand has done so well, because these are the fruits of your labor and the good karma and the energy and the inspiration you put out for years and years as an athlete and an ambassador, you know, come back to you as a company.
And then branching off and taking that name and parlaying it off into having a successful nutritional company. Thank you to Rich Gaspar, who's been a mentor, opened doors for me. Thank you to Lee Labrada, guys like Lee Labrada. Thank you to Jack Owalk and everything and that he's done, and just the whole platform that this industry has given us to be able to do great things. And I just want to share it with everyone around the world, and tell all those guys that I appreciate each and every one of them. And the Levrone Signature Series will be at the Mr. Olympia. So guys, make sure you come by to 2022 Olympia in Vegas. Say hello to me. Say hello to my team. Yeah. We're giving away free samples, free gift bags to everyone.
Nice.
And it's good to be back home, man.
Right on. All right. I know you're headed off to many, many countries soon. You're going on tour again. So thanks for making the time to do this with me. Viewers appreciate it too. So this has been Mr. Olympia Memories with Kevin Levrone, part 2. And we'll see you guys on the MD Levrone Report next time. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Ron.